Hello. Welcome to Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burnt out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Thank you for joining me. I am Dr. Charmaine Gregory, a night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion. Along with everyday heroes just like you, we will explore how to face your fear and emerge victoriously. Today, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Renée Darko on our program. She is the illustrious head of the empire of the Total Premed Makeover podcast. And she has graciously spent some time with us today, and we're going to talk about not letting fear hold us back. Renée, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was wow, that's an introduction to really live up to. But I'm so happy that you invited me to come chat with you today.
Do you want to talk a little bit about who your podcast offers a talk and a channel for and to, and how that ties in with your mission?
Oh, absolutely. So my podcast, as you said, is called the Total Premed Makeover. And it really is for what I call the not so perfect premed, and how people can transform from being a not so perfect premed into being medical school's next top choice applicant. And as you can imagine, people who are feeling like they're not so perfect don't necessarily think that they can ever be a top choice, especially at something so competitive as applying to medical school. But my podcast in particular, I try to focus it on really empowering those types of premeds who may have issues either with grades, MCATs, or just life in general, because there's so many challenges that a premed can encounter while trying to achieve the goal of going to medical school. So I really focus on trying to get them to the point of feeling like they can overcome their challenges and reach their ultimate goal.
So it sounds like you deal with pushing through fear and overcoming relatively on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely.
What would be an example of someone or a challenge that someone would necessarily face that would make them be fearful that they would not be able to live their dream of being a physician?
Well, I mean, I've worked with premeds for over 15 years, and I can tell you that there are lots of fears, but I will give you the example of my story, which unfortunately is the example of many premeds out there. But, you know, the majority of premeds have had some sort of accomplishment throughout their lives, especially before college. And so they tend to be that person who, you know, is at the top of their class and, you know, everyone has high expectations of. When you get to college, sometimes that changes, right? Because now you're competing with a whole new pool of people from around the country. And so it can be a little bit overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with me. I was a bit overwhelmed when talked with my pre-med advisor. And unfortunately, I was discouraged by her from pursuing my goal of going to medical school. And so the fear then became, you know, well, what if she's right? You know, what if I actually don't have what it takes? Now, one of the things that I always talk about with pre-meds is, you know, fear is the reaction to a stimulus, whether or not the stimulus is actually threatening or not. I mean, you know, you could see a spider all the way in the corner and you're scared of it, but that spider is actually not a threat to you because it's nowhere near you. So I talk about that a lot with pre-med, saying, you know what? The best way to overcome fear is knowing and having the will to do something great.
Awesome. That is so well said.
Thank you.
Fear is, you're right. Fear is, it's almost like something that we make up. It's all very mental. And, you know, if we just look at it that way and dismiss it for what it actually is, then you're right. Our greatness will be unleashed. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Right.
What is something that you feel from your experience and from the experience that you've had counseling and educating pre-meds and helping them through their transformation? What kind of advice would you give? Like, what would be, maybe a couple items that you would say are pretty crucial?
I would say definitely understand that, just because you're not necessarily hitting the mark right now doesn't mean you will never hit the mark. It just means that you have to change things up a little bit. You have to really look inside of yourself and see, okay, what do you need to do that's different? And sometimes that comes with asking other people who, are encouraging of you, obviously, but that might come with really looking at yourself and giving yourself the harsh, telling yourself the harsh realizations that, you don't necessarily want to face. So things like, things came easily to you in high school and they don't come so easily to you in college. You could cram in high school. You can't cram in college. And really looking at, am I really putting in the time that I need in order to get to my goal? So that would be the first thing. The other thing I would say is, especially in terms of fear, is that you really, and it kind of sounds like the first, but it's really not, but it's persevering, that you have to persevere. And that comes with a different level of motivation, I think. I think understanding that ultimate goal, that why, right? Why are you doing this? And thinking about what your contribution to the world potentially could be is really what I'm talking about when I talk about you must persevere, because someone out there is depending on you becoming the physician that you will become. And so you don't know who that person is until you meet them later on in life. But in order to meet them, you have to persevere.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So having a good plan and having a good self-assessment, really saying, where am I currently? Mm-hmm. What is the simple step I need in order to get to my goal? And then having the perseverance to carry it through. Oh,
absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You said it perfectly.
That's awesome. Do you feel like, we deal with fear every single day. And even though we know intellectually that it's a mental thing, it still kind of allows us to stumble. And sometimes it makes us fall. Mm-hmm. Forward, flat on the ground, splat, the whole nine.
Oh yeah, been there.
So have I, several times. Not afraid to admit it.
Yep.
What do you think is, if you were to look at your current situation, what do you think is a fear that you're currently facing?
Oh, it's funny that you ask that, because I think I realized this fear the other day when I was talking to a friend of mine. So as you know, I embark on, different types of business ventures with my husband. And, I have the fear, almost kind of like the fear of success, which sounds a little corny, but I'll explain, right? Because that's like, oh, that's first world people problems, right? But but really the fear of success in that, am I going to have the time to give what I need to give, the value that I say that I want to give to the people that I am serving? And so that's a fear of mine, right? Because I have so many competing interests. I have, my business, I practice, I have a family, and it really does cause me some pause sometimes to think, do I really want to continue on doing the things that I'm doing? So that truly is a real fear of mine, but I try to push past it by being organized, by having a plan, by working with my husband in tandem so that we can both accomplish the things that we need to accomplish.
Wow. Yes. Trust me, I wasn't thinking first world problems, but I could tell people would be thinking that. But,
oh yeah,
it's like, in a way, it's almost like part of even just that whole thing where someone is maybe criticizing you and saying first world problems, that is their own fear also speaking. at, with that. And so, no, I think that's fantastic that you acknowledge that you are, you definitely have a plan for it, which is amazing, because that is truly how we overcome our fears and, push past them to our greatness. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem.
So I realized that we didn't really talk a lot about your role as a physician. We talked about you as the Premed strategist, and you having the podcasts that are going to be helping, which is going to be assisting our future colleagues and helping them to be successful. But tell me a little bit about how you practice and what you practice.
So I'm an OBGYN, and I am, right now I'm what you call probably a stay-at-home doctorpreneur mom. And I say all that to say that I stopped full-time practice shortly before I became pregnant. And backtrack a little bit. Some people might say, why'd you stop working before you got pregnant? So I'll backtrack a little bit. My husband and I were married for about 3 years and trying to have a baby during that time. And we were very unsuccessful on our own. And so we decided to do IVF. Well, after 2 years of IVF, we were still unsuccessful. And just the IVF process in and of itself was stressful, partly, and I think and largely in part because I was traveling so much to go back and forth to the IVF center. We live in a rural community, and the closest IVF center was about 4 hours away. And so I was doing this crazy schedule where I was on call, go to work in the office, leave the office at 6 p.m., go to, drive 4 hours to to my in-laws in New Jersey, from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, sleep at my in-laws, wake up at 6 a.m, go to the IVF place, do what I have to do there, get back in the car, drive back to Pennsylvania, go back to the office, and then be on call. And I was doing this, maybe 2-3 times a week during an IVF cycle. So no wonder it was unsuccessful. And so right before we decided to do our final IVF cycle, which would have been our 4th cycle, my husband said, you know what, you probably need to quit your job because this is really, really, too much stress on you. There's no way this is going to be successful. And I was kind of, no, not really, because stress isn't really known to cause infertility, blah, blah, blah. I took the scientific route, but I decided to stop, put in my 90-day notice. And literally the day that I was to leave my practice, the last day, I found out I was pregnant.
That's without so awesome. IVF. That's so awesome. Man, I know you're like, can I get a refund? Yeah.
I'm going to get that from my son.
For real.
But that is to say, that's why I ended up leaving my job before I got pregnant. And I ended up being an independent contractor, basically a locum stock. And so I've been doing that ever since. And so now I work out of 2 hospitals. And so it's been really good for me because I'm able to manage my household a little bit better, especially with my son. He's very active. And I definitely think that if I had continued on the path that I had continued with the way that I was practicing, office and call and all those things can be pretty stressful, that I probably would have had some level of burnout because I felt it coming even before I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was, he was a blessing and a savior. Look at
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. It's like, thank you, little boy.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. You're not the first person that I've talked to that tells the story of the ordeal. I want to say ordeal because it is an ordeal, right? Of IVF, and then having the blessing come after you're done.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what that's about, but
yeah.
But I'm just glad that you got your blessing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And he's so cute.
He is. He's pretty darn cute.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
All right. I really appreciate your time. And we're going to do that very last segment, which is fill in the blank.
Awesome.
And so I'm going to ask if you could complete these sentences. The first one is, to me, fearless freedom means...
Fearless freedom means living your life without necessarily having outside people hold you accountable, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
You know, without having to ask permission. That's probably the best way to say it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And then the next one is, if I am fearless, I will...
If I am fearless, I will leap buildings in a single bound. I will live life to the fullest.
Awesome. I love that. And then the last one is, my battle cry is...
My battle cry is family first.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Family first.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. You are awesome.
Thank you. I had so much fun.
And I'm just looking forward to seeing how everything turns out with your podcast, because I know it's going to be awesome. And there are going to be lots of future doctors that are going to be reaching back and saying thank you for all the advice and all of the information that you put out on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And congratulations on your podcast as well. I am already subscribed.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm already subscribed, and I can't wait to hear all the great things you have to say.
Awesome. I appreciate that. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It has been a pleasure sharing this time with you. And we hope that this is just another piece on your journey as you look at completing your journey and your sojourn into facing fear, punching it in the face, and overcoming. Because by sharing our stories and supporting each other and doing self-reflection, we can do amazing things. So if you found value in this conversation, in this time together with us, please be sure to subscribe to and share this podcast with your friends. After all, don't you want to share this information with those that you care about? By going to your favorite podcast platform, leaving a review and a 5-star rating, you will get the word out about this podcast, and that is very much appreciated. So thanks again for spending your time with us. I appreciate your time and attention. It is my hope that you will punch fear in the face and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.